The Generals of the Yang Family, Chapter 41.
Usually military history is taught like a pristine game of chess.
Right. Very analytical.
Well,
very neat.
Exactly. You look at a map, you see the little blue squares and the red triangles, and it all feels so mathematical.
Yeah, the historian points at the board and says, they moved here, they flanked there, checkmate.
But what happens when the board is plunged into darkness? Like the pieces are literally starving to death in a valley.
And the queen on the opposing side is unwittingly commanded by a deep-cover double agent.
Right. That pristine map becomes completely useless. We are looking at a tactical landscape that is just driven by human panic, invisible loyalties, and, to be honest, sheer logistical audacity.
It really is a completely different kind of warfare.
So today, you and I are unpacking a highly dramatic, incredibly tense Chapter 41 of the classic text, The Generals of the Yang Family.
Which is just an amazing piece of literature.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are dropping right into the middle of a high-stakes military siege in a place called the Nine Dragons Flying Tiger Valley.
Just the name alone sets the tone, right?
Yeah, it really does. So the 8th prince, along with 10 top court officials of the Song dynasty, are completely trapped by the opposing Liao forces.
They're totally boxed in.
The exits are blocked, and the food is running out fast.
And we really have to frame this correctly for you, because this isn't just some dusty old battle story about swords and horses.
No, not at all.
What we are actually analyzing here is a masterclass in crisis psychology, espionage, double agent dynamics, and multi-generational military mobilization.
Which is a lot to cover, but it's so fascinating.
It is, but it's also worth noting right up front as we look at this text that it is a piece of historical fiction, and it's rooted in a very specific cultural viewpoint.
Right, we should clarify that.
The source text uses heavily partisan language, like the Song forces constantly call the Liao barbarians or thieves.
And the Liao hurl similar insults right back at them.
Exactly. So we are looking at this impartially. We're simply analyzing the text's use of morale-boosting propaganda and factional language to understand the psychology of the commanders.
Right, we aren't endorsing either side's rhetoric. It's a psychological tool for the characters, not, a historical absolute for us.
Exactly. It's about how they hype themselves up for combat.
So let's get into the psychology of the siege, because the waiting game is where the tension really boils over.
The waiting is the hardest part in a siege.
You have the 8th prince trapped in this valley, and he is visibly panicking.
Oh, completely losing his nerve.
He is looking at the dwindling grain. He knows reinforcements aren't coming, and the pressure of command is just cracking him.
Well, when you are deprived of agency, when you are literally boxed into a valley, the walls start closing in psychologically long before they close in physically.
That makes total sense.
The 8th prince is an executive leader who is suddenly utterly powerless. I mean, he can only watch the consumption rate of his own supplies.
It's just a slow countdown to starvation. But I want to contrast him with the official right next to him, Kuzan.
Yes, Kuzan is a fascinating counterpoint.
Kuzan is advocating for absolute stoicism. He basically tells the prince, we knew this campaign was dangerous when we left the capital.
Right, he's like, this is the job.
Yeah, he says, we have to be patient, we sit here and we wait. But I have to push back on Kuzan's logic here a bit.
Oh, how so?
Well, if you are sitting in a valley and your food is running out every single day, your combat readiness degrades. At what point does static defense just become like a slow, supervised suicide?
It sounds totally counterintuitive, I grant you that. But Kuzan understands the hidden mechanics of medieval siege warfare.
Which are what, exactly?
Well, time is a weapon that swings both ways. Yes, the Song officials are starving inside the valley. But keeping an army in the field to maintain a blockade is incredibly taxing for the attackers.
I guess I don't think about the logistics of the people outside the valley.
Right, the Liao forces are sitting outside. They have to constantly feed their own men, maintain discipline in a static camp, manage sanitation, which is huge.
Oh yeah, disease in medieval camps was rampant.
Exactly. Plus, they have to keep scouts deployed for miles in every direction just to guard against Song reinforcements.
So it's not easy for them either.
Not at all. Kuzan knows that panicking leads to premature breakouts. If a starving force charges a fortified siege line, it invariably ends in a massacre.
It just gets slaughtered.
Exactly. By remaining stoic, Kuzan forces the Liao to bear the logistical burden of maintaining the siege. He's essentially playing a very dangerous game of chicken with the enemy's supply lines.
Wow, okay. Then you have a third reaction in this trapped camp, Meng Liang.
Ah, yes, the soldier's perspective.
He's a military commander, and his response to the crisis is pure action bias.
He just wants to do something.
Yeah, he volunteers to sneak out of the valley in the dead of night, bypass the entire Liao army, and make it to the Song border defenses at the 3 passes to get help.
So you are really looking at 3 distinct archetypes of crisis management in one trapped command structure here.
Break those down for me.
Sure. You have the panic of the executive, the 8th prince, who only sees the shrinking bottom line. Then the analytical calculation of the advisor, Ku Zun, who understands the strategic value of waiting.
And then Meng Liang.
Right, the kinetic desperation of the soldier, who feels that doing something, even a highly lethal covert mission, is better than slowly withering away.
That's a great way to put it. Let's shift perspectives, though, and look at the people forcing this crisis.
Yeah.
The Liao commanders outside the valley, Yelu Shuigu and Zhang Meng.
They are feeling pretty good about themselves at this point.
Oh, they are incredibly confident. I mean, they have the 8th prince boxed in, but instead of just waiting for the Song to starve, they decide to escalate.
Which is a massive risk.
It really is. They send a message north to their capital, Yuzhou, directly to Empress Xiao. They want her to mobilize a massive reserve army, march down, finish the job, and then use this momentum to sweep into the Central Plains.
They want to translate a localized tactical victory into a massive strategic conquest.
They're so greedy, honestly.
Well, trapping 10 top court officials, including a prince, is a decapitation strike against the Song political infrastructure.
Right, it's not just a military win, it's political.
Exactly. Yilizwegu explicitly states that capturing these officials will wash away the shame of previous military defeats. So it is a deeply personal, highly politicized escalation.
It's essentially the military equivalent of trapping a rival company's board of directors in an elevator.
Huh.
And instead of just, negotiating, you call your own CEO to come down and initiate a hostile takeover of their entire market share.
That is actually a very apt way to visualize the scale of their ambition. I mean, they were trying to end the whole war in a single stroke.
But in their rush to secure this ultimate victory, the Liao forces are about to unknowingly invite the ultimate Trojan horse into their own ranks.
This is where the story gets really wild.
It really does. Let's talk about Empress Xiao. She gets this message in Yuzhou, and she is eager to march south and crush the trapped Song leadership.
She sees the opportunity.
But she admits to a glaring vulnerability, right? Her upper military leadership is severely depleted. She literally doesn't have her veteran generals available to lead a massive new army.
And a military hierarchy just cannot function with a hollow center.
It collapses, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can have hundreds of thousands of willing soldiers, but without a cohesive operational command, they are just an armed mob.
And into this power vacuum steps a man named Muyu.
A very interesting figure.
Yeah, he is the prince consort, meaning he is married into the Liao royal family, and he eagerly volunteers to lead the Vanguard.
And Empress Xiao just gives it to him.
She does. Seemingly blinded by the opportunity for a quick victory, she just hands him the reins. She gives him command of 100,000 troops.
Which is a staggering number.
But this isn't a unified, standardized army. The text is very specific here. This force is composed of 4 distinct nations.
Right, it's a coalition.
Exactly. The Jurchen, the Shifan, the Shatuo, and the Hishui.
We really need to pause and look at the sheer logistical nightmare of what Empress Xiao just did. The fragility of this coalition is just staggering.
Break that down for me. Why is it a nightmare? I mean, 100,000 men is a massive hammer to swing at a trapped enemy.
It is a massive hammer, but the handle is completely splintered.
Well, that's a good analogy.
You are dealing with a multinational force. Like the Jurchen are heavy cavalry from the northeast forests. The Shifan originate from the western plateaus, and they specialize in high-altitude skirmishing.
Totally different fighting styles.
Right. And then the Shatuo are Turkic cavalry with their own deeply ingrained military traditions, and the Hishui are this fiercely independent northern people.
So they have nothing in common.
Basically nothing. They don't speak the same languages, they don't use the same weapons, they don't share the same combat doctrines.
That sounds like chaos.
It is, and most importantly, they have entirely separate, culturally distinct officer corps.
So they are constantly jostling for position and resources within their own camp, like fighting each other for supplies.
Precisely. To command that effectively requires a seasoned logistical genius who commands universal respect.
Which Mui isn't, right? Or at least he hasn't proven it to them.
Exactly. Empress Xiao gave it to the prince consort simply because he volunteered at the right time. She is relying entirely on the overwhelming mass of those 100,000 troops to compensate for the structural weakness of her command.
And here is the massive twist that completely upends the entire narrative.
I love this part.
This prince consort, Mui, he is not loyal to the Liao.
Not at all.
He is actually Yanlang, a Song loyalist, and a member of the very family whose generals defend the Song dynasty.
The Yang family.
Right. He is operating in unbelievably deep cover within the enemy's royal family.
I mean, the psychological endurance required to maintain that level of cover is almost incomprehensible.
Seriously, he's married to their royalty.
He has integrated into their court, learned their ways, and just waited. And notice what he does with this newfound power.
What do you mean?
Well, he doesn't just use his command of the Vanguard to escape back to his family. He could have just fled.
Oh, right. He could have just rode away in the night.
Exactly. But instead, he uses the Liao's own military infrastructure to alter the battlefield.
And the way he executes this is what really caught my attention. The text describes this starlit, windless night. Mui goes to his tent, completely alone.
It's very cinematic.
It is. He writes a secret letter, ties it to a whistling arrow, and shoots it over the valley walls right into the Song camp.
The mechanics of the whistling arrow are so fascinating to me.
Yeah, explain that, because it sounds like it would give away his position.
Well, it's a specialized tool of medieval warfare. Usually it's used to signal troops to shift formations over the din of battle. It has this carved, hollowed-out head that catches the air and shrieks as it flies.
But he uses it in the dead of night, in a windless valley.
Which means the sound would echo like a siren.
Right, everyone would hear it.
Exactly. It is designed to be found immediately, only by the people who are awake and terrified inside the valley. He is essentially bypassing the entire physical firewall of the Liao siege with one aerodynamic packet of information.
That's brilliant, and what's in the letter changes everything.
It's a total game changer.
He tells the 8th prince to be patient, which completely validates Kuzan's strategy of waiting, by the way.
Kuzan was right all along.
Yeah. But the crucial part is this. Mui reveals that he has secretly stashed 20 entire carts of food at the back of the mountain.
20 carts.
And he explicitly warns them that this must be kept strictly confidential.
The audacity of this move just cannot be overstated. Moving 20 carts of military rations in a highly active, heavily guarded siege camp is a monumental logistical feat.
I was trying to visualize this while reading. How does one secretly divert that much physical mass?
It's not like slipping a piece of paper in your pocket.
No. You can't just casually roll 20 wagons full of grain out of the main camp and hide them behind a mountain without someone noticing.
Well, you have to exploit the bureaucracy of the massive army you are commanding.
Okay, how does he do that?
Remember those 4 diverse nations we talked about?
Yeah.
The Jurchen, Shifan, Shatuo, and Heishui.
Yeah, the splintered handle of the hammer?
Right. That division is actually Mui's greatest asset here. In a unified army, a missing supply train is noticed immediately. The quartermaster would flag it.
Right, because there's one central ledger.
Exactly. But in a fractured 100,000-man coalition where no one speaks the same language and supply lines are tangled, chaos is the baseline.
So he just uses the confusion of the coalition against them.
Exactly. He's the supreme Vanguard commander. He can forge requisition orders, claiming the Chateau need grain moved to the left flank, while telling the quartermasters it's actually for the Jurchen.
And they wouldn't even be able to talk to each other to verify it.
Exactly. He schedules the movement for a time when patrols are diverted. He knows the blind spots of the valley's geography perfectly. He essentially uses his authority to create a ghost supply line.
It really highlights a critical vulnerability in large centralized organizations.
Oh, absolutely.
If the trust is centralized at the very top and that top layer is compromised, the entire bureaucratic machine just becomes a weapon against itself.
The Liao army's massive size is literally what made them blind to the theft.
That is just nuts. So, Meng Liang, the soldier who wanted to breach out earlier, successfully sneaks to the back of the mountain and retrieves the 20 carts of food.
Huge success for the Song.
Massive. But, it's only half the problem solved.
True.
The 8th prince can eat now, but he is still trapped in that valley. To actually break a siege, you have to establish two-way communication.
You need outside help.
Right. You need a messenger to physically cross enemy lines to coordinate a rescue from the outside, which leads us to Meng Liang's attempt to break out.
And this results in a heart-stopping moment of espionage.
It really does.
This is where the elegant theoretical plan of the deep cover agent collides with the chaotic reality of the muddy battlefield.
Meng Liang, he tries to sneak all the way out of the enemy camp to go get reinforcements.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
And he makes a near-fatal error. He gets caught by a Liao patrol.
The density of a 100,000-man siege camp makes a physical breakout nearly impossible.
Yeah?
There's simply too many overlapping patrol routes.
Yeah, he just bumps right into them. He fights, he loses, he is bound, and the patrol drags him right to the tent of the Vanguard commander.
Oh, no.
They drag him right to Mui. I was holding my breath reading this part.
The tension is incredible.
The patrol thinks they've caught a song spy. Meng Liang thinks he is a dead man. And Mui is sitting there looking at a song soldier who knows his true identity.
Right, Meng Liang recognizes him.
Yeah. And they are surrounded by Liao guards who would butcher them both on the spot if they realized they were looking at two Song loyalists.
It is the ultimate stress test for a double agent. I mean, he has split seconds to react.
One wrong look and it's over.
Any hesitation, any subtle look of recognition toward Meng Liang, and the entire operation collapses. The guards are watching his face for a reaction.
But Muzi's improvisation is incredible. He doesn't freeze at all.
No, he flips the script.
He immediately goes on the offensive. He stands up, points at Meng Liang, and starts screaming at him. He pretends Meng Liang is his own secret messenger who he sent on a covert mission.
It's so smart.
He yells, like, "Why are you late? Why did you get caught by these guards?"
What you are seeing here is the weaponization of hierarchy.
Okay, explain that. How does yelling at a prisoner convince the guards to just let him go?
Well, Mui understands that a lower-ranking patrol guard operates on a strict paradigm of deference.
Okay.
They brought a spy to the Supreme Commander expecting a reward.
Yeah, a pat on the back or some gold.
Instead, the Supreme Commander unleashes a wave of furious indignation, acting as if the guards have just disrupted a highly classified mission by arresting his personal operative.
He makes them feel like they messed up.
Exactly. Muishi establishes a false narrative so aggressively, with so much top-down authority, that the guards' critical thinking completely short-circuits.
They don't even question the story.
They don't question the logic at all. They just respond to the hierarchy. They apologize for interfering and actually untie Meng Liang.
It's social engineering at its finest, using raw confidence to bypass a physical security protocol.
And Meng Liang catches on so fast.
He does. Meng Liang realizes the con immediately. He apologizes for taking the wrong path in the dark, playing the role of the bumbling subordinate.
Just playing right into the narrative.
And Muji just shoos him out of the camp, yelling at him to hurry up and finish his mission.
It is brilliant, but that near-death experience fundamentally alters Meng Liang's trajectory.
It really does. Once Meng Liang is clear of the camp, he has a realization. His original plan was to go all the way to the capital to get the main imperial army.
Which is miles and miles away.
Right. But after seeing the sheer scale of the 100,000-man Liao coalition and how tight their security actually is, he calculates that the 8th prince doesn't have the time to wait for a capital mobilization.
The prince would starve before the army got there.
Exactly. He has to pivot. So he heads to Mount Wutai to recruit someone very specific, Yang Wulang, who is serving as a monk.
The geography of Mount Wutai is key here. It is mountainous, remote, and historically served as a significant religious sanctuary.
But we need to be very clear about what kind of monks we're talking about here.
Oh, definitely.
Because these are not peaceful ascetics raking sand gardens.
No.
The text is very explicit about the makeup of Wulong's monastic army. This temple, located near the western borders, has essentially become a sanctuary for violent criminals.
It's wild.
It's crazy. Over 1,000 murderers, bandits, and outlaws who fled temporal law sought refuge at Wutai. Wulong took them in, shaved their heads, and molded them into an undefeated, fiercely loyal paramilitary force.
It exploits a fascinating sociological loophole in medieval governance.
A loophole? Wait, how does that work?
Well, the concept of religious sanctuary meant that the state armies often wouldn't cross the threshold of the temple to arrest these men.
Ah, so they were untouchable on the mountain.
Exactly. But I have to say, the logic of deploying them is, well, it's fraught.
Yeah, I have to challenge the logic of this too. Is it really a sound military strategy to take 1,000 death row inmates, own them, and point them at a professional army of 100,000 men.
It sounds like a terrible idea on paper.
Giving weapons to violent criminals seems like a recipe for a massive mutiny the second they hit the battlefield. Why don't they just run away?
In a peacetime garrison, it would be an absolute disaster. They would definitely desert. But you have to look at the psychological contract Wulong has forged with these men.
What do you mean by psychological contract?
These are individuals who have entirely forfeited their lives in the eyes of society. They have no families to return to, no property, and no legal standing.
If they leave the mountain without Wulong, they are executed.
Exactly. Wulong offers them the only two things they have left to desire: spiritual salvation and immediate purpose.
So they are bound to him because he is their only shield against execution.
Precisely. In return for offering them a path to redemption, he gains absolute, unquestioning loyalty.
That's incredibly manipulative, but also very effective.
You get shock troops who do not fear death because, socially and legally, they are already dead. Regular conscripts fight because they are ordered to and they want to go home.
Right.
These monks fight because violence is their native language, and Wulong has given them a sanctioned, even holy outlet for it.
It's just grim pragmatism. But even with 1,000 utterly fearless, violent monks, Meng Liang is doing the math.
1,000 versus 100,000.
Right. 1,000 shock troops cannot permanently break a 100,000-man siege.
No, they cannot. 1,000 men is a tactical wedge. You can use it to disrupt an enemy line or cause a localized panic.
Just to stir things up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But to shatter a siege of that scale, you need a strategic hammer.
Yeah.
And that requires waking up the entire Song Imperial Communication Network.
Which triggers the next phase of this text, and it's a massive empire-wide mobilization.
It's like flipping a switch.
Meng Liang essentially becomes the central nervous system for the Song dynasty. He leaves Mount Wutai, knowing the monks are marching. He races to the Three Passes to inform the sixth brother, Lu Lang, who commands the heavily fortified border armies.
He's just moving from node to node.
And then, without resting, he rides all the way to the capital, Bayanjing, to directly inform Emperor Zhenzong.
The physical toll of that relay is immense. We are talking about hundreds of miles on horseback.
Just exhausting.
Navigating potentially hostile territory,
Right.
driven purely by adrenaline and the knowledge that the state's leadership is starving in a valley.
When he finally reaches the emperor, the reaction is swift. The emperor is horrified to learn his top officials have been trapped for nearly a month.
He had no idea.
But the moment he hears that Moy has secured their food supply, he acts. He appoints the young, fiercely ambitious Yang Zongbao as the Vanguard commander.
A very bold choice.
And then he does something very interesting. He pairs him with Huyanzan, a grizzled older veteran acting as the army supervisor, and he gives them 50,000 imperial troops.
That pairing is textbook medieval military doctrine.
The young guy and the old guy?
Yeah. You take the raw, kinetic energy of a young vanguard who can inspire the men to march faster and fight harder, and you tether it to the cold operational experience of an old veteran.
So they balance each other out.
Exactly. Huyanzan is there to manage the supply trains, scout the routes, and basically prevent the young commander from charging headfirst into an ambush. It's a perfect balance of momentum and caution.
But the mobilization doesn't stop at the emperor's throne room. This is where the multi-generational aspect really shines.
It is a family affair.
Before leaving the capital, young Zongbao visits his family home, the Wuning Mansion. He goes to see the matriarch of the family, the Lingpo.
She's an amazing character.
And her reaction is profound. She doesn't weep for her trapped family members. She doesn't panic. She immediately deploys the 8th sister, Ban Yang, and the 9th sister, Ju Mei, to ride with the vanguard.
This completely shatters the conventional boundaries of who is expected to participate in state warfare during this era.
It really does. It's like an all-hands-on-deck crisis in a family dynasty. When the existence of the state and the family line is threatened, all the rigid conventions about age, gender, and societal roles are completely discarded.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the organizational efficiency we are seeing in just a few pages of text is remarkable.
Oh, totally.
The Song dynasty is activating multiple, entirely distinct layers of military power simultaneously.
Like a machine waking up.
Yes. You have the local, unconventional militia, the outlaw monks. You have the regional border armies at the Three Passes. You have the formal imperial mainstays, the emperor's 50,000 troops. And you have the highly elite, specialized family assets, the Yang sisters.
It's a completely decentralized network of independent forces that all share a unified goal.
Which is exactly why the Liao forces are about to be overwhelmed. They thought they were fighting a single, centralized entity trapped in a valley.
They had no idea what was coming.
They didn't realize they had triggered a deeply embedded cultural defense network that can mobilize from 4 different directions at once.
In all these factions, the violent monks, the veteran commanders, the fierce sisters, the young prodigy are all speeding toward one single geographical coordinate, the 9 dragons flying Tiger Valley.
The convergence.
Which sets the stage for a spectacular, chaotic climax.
The collision of these forces is where the tension finally breaks.
The visual details of the grand battle in the text are just stunning. The clash begins with Monk Wulang's arrival, and he doesn't initiate some quiet, tactical flanking maneuver.
No, subtlety is not his style.
He rides right up to the front lines of the massive Liao camp and engages in intense psychological warfare. He is loudly cursing the Liao forces, calling them barbarians, telling them they will be ground into powder.
Which, again, is the text's rhetoric. But provocation is a highly specific tactic here.
You're right. Why not just sneak attack them?
If you have a small force of 1,000 monks facing a massive army, you cannot fight a static war of attrition. They will just surround you and pepper you with arrows.
You die in minutes.
Right. Wulong has to force the enemy to break formation. By insulting them so aggressively, he is baiting the Liao commanders into abandoning their defensive posture and attacking recklessly out of sheer anger.
And the Liao's 4 foreign kings, Hu Ji, Chen Shen, Wang Heihu, and Wang Bida, they take the bait.
Hook, line, and sinker.
They counterattack and surround Wulong in a fierce ambush. Arrows and stones are flying everywhere. Wulong is pinned down.
From the Liao perspective, everything is going according to plan. They believe their overwhelming numbers have successfully neutralized the first wave of reinforcements.
But then comes the turning point. Out of the southwest, a massive cloud of dust rises. The drums and horns echo through the valley.
The cavalry arrives.
The song Imperial reinforcements have arrived. And the specific combat tactics described in the source are incredibly vivid. It's not just a generic clash of swords.
The author gives us localized duels that really explain the mechanical reality of the battle.
Right. For instance, Meng Liang, the guy who almost died as a captive earlier, charges in and literally cleaves the Chateau General Chen Shen in half with a heavy axe.
Brutal.
Very. And then you have the monks. Wulang's men don't fight like regular soldiers. They use heavy, sweeping blades to brutally chop the legs off of Wang Haku's horse.
Just aiming right for the horse.
Yeah, bringing the king crashing to the ground to be captured.
That specific tactic, chopping the horse's legs, is indicative of infantry fighting heavy cavalry. It's brutal, sure, but highly effective.
Why not just aim for the rider, though?
Well, a mounted knight has an immense advantage in height, momentum, and armor. If an infantryman tries to strike the rider, they have to reach past the horse and penetrate thick armor.
Sounds difficult.
It's nearly impossible. But the horse's lower legs are often unarmored and structurally fragile. You take out the horse, and the kinetic energy of the charge throws the heavily armored rider to the ground.
Oh, so the armor actually works against them when they fall.
Exactly, stunning them and rendering their armor basically useless.
It's pure physics. And then there's my absolute favorite detail from this battle. The 8th sister, Banyang.
Yes.
She rides head-to-head against the Jurchen king, Hu Ji. But she doesn't joust with a lance or swing a sword. The text says she expertly throws a red velvet lasso, snares him right off his horse, and captures him alive.
Such a great detail.
But seriously, how does a lasso work against a heavily armored Jurchen cavalry king?
It works precisely because he is heavily armored.
Wait, really? Explain that.
A Jurchen knight is trained to parry a lance, block a sword, or deflect an axe with his shield or lamellar armor. His entire combat paradigm is based on deflecting rigid strikes.
Right, steel hitting steel.
Exactly. He has absolutely no defense against a flexible ranged tool designed to entangle. The lasso bypasses his armor entirely.
That makes so much sense.
It loops over his torso, pinning his arms to his sides, and then uses the momentum of his own galloping horse to violently whip him from the saddle. It shows the incredible diversity of unconventional tactics the Yang family brought to the battlefield.
The Liao army is just systematically dismantled by these unconventional methods. The heavy cavalry is grounded, the kings are captured, and the command structure implodes.
It all falls apart so fast.
Which leads us back to Empress Xiao, who is sitting in her command tent. She receives the reports that her 4 kings are captured, her vanguard is collapsing, and she sees the banners of the main Song army arriving.
And her reaction is intense.
Her courage completely shatters.
The psychological break is instantaneous and absolute.
She literally draws her own sword and attempts to die by suicide, right there in the camp. She cries out that the war is lost.
This is the core thematic contrast of the entire text. Look at Empress Xiao's reaction here, and compare it to Ku Zun's reaction back in the valley.
Oh, the stoic advisor.
Right. Ku Zun was physically trapped, facing slow starvation, but his mind remained strategic and unbroken. Empress Xiao is physically safe. She still has massive reserves in the north, but the moment the battlefield reality diverges from her visualization of an easy victory, her mind just shatters.
That's a huge contrast.
Wars are won and lost not just on logistics or troop numbers, but on the psychological endurance of the top leadership.
She is essentially a glass cannon commander, immense offensive capability, but the moment she takes a hit, she breaks into pieces.
Precisely. It takes her subordinates, Yili Zuigu and Zhang Meng, to physically intervene.
They have to stop her from using the sword.
Yes, they have to inject rationality back into the room. They grab her and remind her, like, you still have hundreds of thousands of troops back in Yuzu. We can retreat and fight another day.
They practically have to drag her out of the camp. They escape through the Bin Valley, abandoning the siege entirely.
Leaving everything behind.
So the Liao forces are routed, the valley is secured, and the 8th prince and his officials are finally saved.